Hi, I want to take this contour, this 2D contour toolpath part that we've made and do one more video where I talk about extending the contour, extending the start and the end of the operation. So let me go ahead and run the simulation here and kind of show you what I'm talking about. So if and what I'm going to do is instead of playing through the entire thing, I'm just going to go ahead and step through it. But if I step through and actually, you can see the cutter plunging into the part here, and what's happening is the cutter is the following this this chaining line that we have implemented for this toolpath. It's actually the center of the cutter that ends up going from the point. I'll just go step back here, go all the way back, that actually goes from the start point here all the way to the end point here. So because it's the center line of the cutter that follows that, what happens is you have half of the cutter engaged and half of the cutter not engaged in this particular toolpath. So let me go back to the isometric view here, and we'll go ahead and also just fit this here so we can see it a little bit better. So as I step through, the other thing that happens here, and I'll go ahead and pan this out, the other thing that happens here is the exact same thing at the other end. So this is the start of the contour, this is the end of the contour, only half of the cutter is engaged in the cut. So what's going to happen here, especially with this plastic in the long run, let me just step through and just get this out. Although it looks like that the contour or this slot that's cut through here is going to be such that the ends are cleaned out, so completely free of material and squared off. That's not in reality what's going to happen. What's going to happen there, if we leave this the way it currently is that all the material is going to be pushed up to this end, and it's not going to be completely cleared out. So it will end up looking pretty stringy on the ends here. So there's a couple different things that we can do to improve that situation. There's things that are probably a little cruder, like just taking this line and extending it out. But probably a little more elegant way, I guess, of doing it would be to, inside of the parameters, if we go back in and take a look at the lead in, lead out. So very rarely do I use this lead in, lead out in the class for anything other than what I'm about to demonstrate, which is adjusting the start and the end of the contour. So I'm going to enable this lead in, lead out. Let me just move this over here. But I'm going to disable some of the things that are up at the top here. So I'm not going to use this to enter the part or exit the part in any other way other than to adjust the start and the end of the contour. So let me go ahead and disable this enter, exit, and midpoint and close contours, as well as this entry and exit right here. And I'll go ahead and keep this gouge checked. If there's anything you ever want to see in here that you want to know more about, you can always click on the in context help here. And specifically, if you look at the parameters, when that help opens up in the 2021 version, it opens up in a separate web browser page. So if you take a look at the parameters, once again, in the in context help, it's usually very helpful in explaining what each of these different things is doing. So what I want to do, though, is I want to adjust the start of my contour and also adjust the end of my contour so that essentially that cutter starts off of the part. So the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to actually do this as a percentage of the diameter of the cutting tool. So I'm going to enter in here 125%, and you'll see what I wind up with is, since I have a half-inch diameter end mill, I actually end up with the adjustment of the start of my contour adjusting by 0.625 inches. So I don't want to shorten this, though. I actually want to extend the start of my contour. So I'm going to go ahead and enable this radio button here to extend it. The other thing that I want to do is adjust the end of the contour. And there's actually a couple of nifty little buttons here that I can use to do that. So if I've already entered in all of the data on this side that I want to adjust, I can go ahead and just left click on this double arrow right here and it will put in the same information on the other side. So again, here what I'm doing is just adjusting the end of the contour also by 125% of the diameter of the flat end mill that I'm using. So let me go ahead and select OK to this. You'll see that every time you make changes to something in your parameters, what happens is you have to regenerate in some way. So we could run the simulation and we'll be prompted to regenerate, or we can use this, this tool button here, which actually regenerates all of the selected operations. So I'll do that and it'll regenerate, and I see that I have no issues. So what I'm going to do now is just go over here to my verify selected operations, which is this little, the part with a little green check mark beside it. And it launches the separate window for the verification for the simulation. And I'm going to go ahead and step through this once again. So what you're going to see now is that instead of it plunging directly into where the contour starts, instead of the center of the end mill plunging directly to where this point is, because I've adjusted the start of the contour, it's actually going off of the part. And you'll see as we step through now, it's going to do the same thing at the other end. It has lengthened, extended this contour. And so now, instead of just stopping here and retracting out of the material, let me go back. Instead of stopping here and just retracting out, it's going to extend all the way through, which is going to then, what that does is that prevents all the buildup of material here and makes for a much nicer, cleaner cut. So that's a way that you can use the lead in, lead out. It's probably one of the only ways, at least in terms of this class, that I personally use the lead in, lead out. So I'm sure at some point you'll find that helpful. And in the next videos, what will happen is I'll be discussing the post-processing and things, and hopefully then moving on to pockets and doing some videos on pockets. Thanks, and see you in the next video.